So, good morning, everyone. We are the Group 5 and we will be discussing the topic Alternative Energy Resources. So, the learning objectives for this topic is to identify the alternative energy resources aside from fossil fuels, evaluate the advantages and disadvantages of using different energy resources, determine the appropriate energy resource for a particular location or setting, relate the use of alternative energy resource to the mitigation of climate change, and assess the renewable energy resources being used in the Philippines. Alternative energy resources are sustainable sources of power that reduce reliance on fossil fuels and minimize environmental impact. This includes solar, wind, hydro, geothermal, and biomass energy. By harnessing natural processes, alternative energy promotes a cleaner, more sustainable future. Diri sa table nga ni makita ang renewable energy technologies from UNFCCC Greenhouse Gas Mitigation Assessment Guidebook 1995. Diri makita ang source, what technology and kung din sila ginagamit. For example, ang first technology photovoltaics flat plate. Iya resource is solar, then ang use niya is for electricity. Renewable energy sources. Renewable energy sources are forms of energy that are naturally replenished and can be used indefinitely. This includes solar, wind, hydroelectric, geothermal, and biomass energy. Renewable energy sources are natural resources that can be replenished over time and are considered sustainable alternatives to finite fossil fuels. These sources of energy harness natural processes or phenomena to generate power without depleting the Earth's finite resources. It plays a critical role in mitigating climate change and reducing greenhouse gas emissions. Unlike fossil fuels, which release carbon dioxide and other pollutants when burned, renewable energy sources such as solar, wind, hydroelectric, and geothermal power produce minimal to no emissions during operation. By transitioning to these clear alternatives, we can significantly reduce our carbon footprint and mitigate the harmful effects of climate change on our planet. According to the International Energy Agency in 2016, roughly 15% to 20% of the world's total energy consumption comes from renewable sources. Since 1990, there has been an annual growth rate of 2.2% in energy consumption from renewable resources. In the global electricity production, renewable energy sources are the second largest source next to coal. Solar energy. Solar energy is radiant light and heat from the sun that is harnessed using a range of technologies such as solar power to generate electricity, solar thermal energy, including solar water heating, and solar architecture. Solar energy is abundant, clean, and sustainable, making it an increasingly popular source of power for homes, businesses, and utilities around the world. Solar energy is a type of renewable energy that is derived from the radiation of the sun. It is harnessed through the use of solar panels, which convert sunlight directly into electricity, photovoltaic cells, or use sunlight to generate heat or solar thermal systems. One of the most significant impacts of solar energy lies in its potential to mitigate climate change and reduce our carbon footprint. Unlike fossil fuels, which release carbon dioxide and other pollutants when burned, solar energy production produces no greenhouse gas emissions during operation. Why solar energy? First, solar power is good for the environment. Solar energy is a clean and environmentally friendly energy source that produces no greenhouse gas emissions or air pollutants during operation. By harnessing sunlight to generate electricity, solar energy helps mitigate climate change, reduce air pollution, and preserve ecosystems. Second, solar power is clean and renewable. Solar energy is derived from the sun, a virtually infinite and renewable resource. Unlike fossil fuels, which are finite and contribute to the environmental degradation, solar energy offers a sustainable solution to our energy needs without depleting natural resources. Third, solar power is a free source of energy. Sunlight is abundant and freely available, making solar energy a cost-effective and accessible source of power. Unlike fossil fuels, which require costly extraction, processing, and transportation, solar energy harnesses the natural energy of the sun without any associated fuel costs. Fourth, solar power is cost saving. While there are upfront costs associated with installing solar panels, solar energy offers long term cost savings on electricity bills. Once installed, solar panels have minimal operating costs since sunlight is free. Over the lifespan of solar panels, homeowners and businesses can save significant amounts of money on energy bills, making solar energy a cost effective investment. Fifth, solar power is a long term investment. Solar energy systems are a long term investment that provides a reliable and predictable source of electricity for decades. With proper maintenance, solar panels can last 25 years or more, providing a stable return on investment and reducing reliance on volatile energy markets. And lastly, solar power makes your home off the grid. Solar energy systems can help make your home go off the grid by providing a self-sufficient source of electricity. With the addition of battery storage systems, solar panels can store excess energy generated during the day for use at night or during periods of low sunlight, allowing homeowners to power their homes independently off the grid. Solar thermal systems. Solar thermal systems collect and transform solar energy into high temperature thermal energy that can be used directly or converted to electricity. So, a solar thermal energy system harnesses sunlight to generate heat energy for various applications, including heating water for domestic use, space heating in buildings, industrial processes, and electricity generation. Unlike solar photovoltaic or PV systems, which directly convert sunlight into electricity, solar thermal systems utilize the heat energy from sunlight to produce thermal energy. So there are two methods that are employed in this technology. The central receiver system. A central receiver system, also known as a solar power tower, is a type of solar thermal energy system used in large-scale solar power plants. It consists a field of mirrors known as heliostats, which track the movement of the sun and reflect sunlight onto a central receiver located at the top of a tower. It comprises a large field of heliostats, which are flat mirrors mounted on tracking mechanisms. These heliostats track the movement of the sun throughout the day and reflect sunlight onto a single focal point at the top of a tower. Next is a solar thermal plant. A solar thermal plant, also known as a concentrating solar power or CSP plant, is a type of power plant that uses concentrated sunlight to generate electricity. It goes through a series of steps involving concentrating sunlight, heating a fluid, generating steam, and driving a turbine connected to a generator. The rotation of the turbine shaft drives the generator, converting the mechanical energy into electrical energy. The electricity generated by the generator is then transmitted to the power grid for distribution to consumers. Photovoltaic or PV cells or solar cells. Photovoltaic PV cells or solar cells encompass a range of approaches integrating solar energy systems into buildings, including solar photovoltaic PV systems, building integrated photovoltaics or BIPV, solar thermal systems, passive solar design, and daylight strategies. There are two categories of solar cell devices. First is a concentration system. The concentration system uses direct sunlight and lenses or curved mirrors to focus radiation onto highly efficient solar cells. These systems use solar panels to convert sunlight directly into electricity, which can be used to power appliances, lighting, and other electrical devices in the buildings. Second is the flat plate system. Flat plate systems utilize the whole incident solar radiation, including diffuse solar rays. These systems use solar collectors to absorb sunlight and convert it into heat, which can be used for space heating, water heating, and other thermal energy applications in the buildings. Solar building technologies. Solar building technologies, also known as building integrated photovoltaics or BIPV or solar building materials, involve incorporating solar energy generation capabilities directly into the design and construction of buildings. This system integrates solar panels directly into building materials such as roofing, windows, and facades, providing both renewable energy generation and building functionality. There are two methods that are employed in this technology. First, the active and passive heating system. The active heating system provides hot water and space heating for residential or commercial buildings. It uses a collector that receives or absorbs the incident solar energy and transfers it to a working fluid for direct use or storage. Passive heating technologies include thermal storage walls, sun spaces, and rainwater harvesting roofs. In the northern hemisphere, solar heating windows may be placed in the south side because this is where most incoming solar radiation is present. Active heating systems rely on mechanical equipment such as furnaces or boilers powered by external energy sources to generate and distribute heat throughout buildings, while passive heating systems utilize natural elements and design features to passively capture and retain heat without the need for mechanical equipment or external energy input. Second is the active and passive cooling system. The active cooling system includes a solar desiccant system that uses a dry agent to absorb water vapor in building air circulation. Passive cooling technologies include the use of insulated and low emissivity building materials, landscaping methods, and earth cooling tubes that use soil temperature. Active cooling systems use mechanical equipment like air conditioners or refrigeration units, powered by external energy sources to remove heat from buildings, whereas passive cooling systems leverage natural ventilation, shading, and thermal mass to passively dissipate heat without the need for mechanical equipment or external energy input. Solar cookers. Solar cookers focus and concentrate light to cook food and even pasteurize drinks. This technology is inexpensive and may be used for both small and larger scale requirements. A solar cooker is a type of solar thermal collector. It gathers and traps the sun's thermal or heat energy. Heat is produced when high-frequency light, visible and ultraviolet, is converted into low-frequency infrared radiation. Ultraviolet and visible light easily pass through glass. However, when they strike a darkened surface, they are converted into long-wave infrared radiation or heat. The glass is called glazing on a solar collector traps these long waves. Solar cookers are improving the quality of life for many people around the world. Solar ovens have been introduced in parts of South America, Africa, and India. The use of solar cookers helps to reduce the dependency on firewood. There are three basic types of solar cookers on the market today: box cooker, parabolic reflector cookers, and panel cookers. Hydroelectric power. Hydroelectricity is generated from the movement of water from rivers, streams, and canals. The flow of water can be controlled by dams and reservoirs and released to spin turbines to produce electricity. Hydroelectric power is generated by harnessing the energy of flowing or falling water. It's typically generated by damming rivers to create reservoirs, then releasing controlled amounts of water through turbines, which spin generators to produce electricity. It's a renewable energy source and one of the oldest methods of generating electricity. So there are three methods to generate hydropower. First is a small-scale method. The small-scale method involves a low dam with no reservoir. It is built across a river or stream where the flow of water is used to spin turbines and produce electricity. The small-scale hydropower projects are often more environmentally and socially sustainable compared to large-scale hydropower developments, as they typically have lower environmental impact, involve local communities in decision-making processes, and provide benefits at the local level. Next is the large-scale method. The large-scale method involves a high dam built across a large river to create a reservoir. Water flow is controlled through a large pipes that spin turbines and thereby generate electricity. These dams may also be used for irrigation, flood control, navigation, and recreation. The large-scale hydropower typically refers to hydroelectric power plants that have a significant capacity to generate electricity, often measured in megawatts or MW or gigawatts or GW. These projects usually involve the construction of dams and reservoirs. to harness the energy of flowing water, which is then converted into electricity through turbines. Large-scale hydropower projects can supply substantial amounts of electricity to regional or national grids. And third is the pump storage hydropower. The pump storage method uses recycled water instead of free-flowing water. Water is pumped from a lake or water reservoir to another reservoir located at a higher elevation using low-cost resources by using surplus electricity. This system is mostly used with electricity demands. Pump storage hydropower involves two reservoirs at different elevations. During periods of low electricity demand, excess electricity from the grid is used to pump water from the lower reservoir to upper reservoir. When electricity demand is high, water is released from the upper reservoir, flowing downhill through turbines to generate electricity. Pump storage systems provide a way to store excess energy and provide additional electricity during peak demand periods. Hydroelectric power is important for several reasons. First, renewable energy is a renewable energy source, meaning it relies on the continuous flow of water, which is replenished by precipitation and natural processes. Second, low greenhouse gas emissions. Unlike fossil fuels, hydroelectric power generation produces minimal greenhouse gas emissions, contributing to efforts to combat climate change. Third, reliable and flexible. Hydroelectric plants can quickly respond to changes in demand for electricity, providing a stable and reliable source of power that can be easily adjusted to match fluctuations in demand. Fourth, water management. Hydroelectric dams also provide benefits for water management, such as flood control, irrigation, and water supply for drinking and agriculture. Economic benefits. Hydroelectric projects can stimulate economic development through job creation, investment in infrastructures, and revenue generation for local communities. Sixth is energy independence. Utilizing hydroelectric power reduces dependence on imported fossil fuels, enhancing energy security for countries with abundant water resources. Overall, hydroelectric power plays a significant role in meeting global energy needs while reducing environmental impacts compared to traditional fossil fuel-based energy sources. Tidal power. Tidal power uses energy generated from the ocean's waves, tides, and temperature gradients. Although not yet widely used, tidal energy has the potential for future electricity generation. Tides are more predictable than the wind and the sun. Tidal power harnesses the energy from the ocean's natural movements such as waves, tides, and temperature gradients to generate electricity. While not yet widely adopted, it holds significant potential for future energy production due to its predictability, which is greater than that of wind and solar power. Ocean Thermal Energy Conversion, or OTEC. OTEC uses the temperature difference between the ocean surface and ocean depth of about 100 meters to generate electricity. This mechanism can use seawater. When seawater turns to steam, it drives the turbines to create power before it condenses back to water once the temperature cools. Ocean thermal energy conversion generates electricity by exploiting the temperature difference between warm surface water and cooler deep water, typically around 100 meters below. Warm seawater heats a working fluid, which vaporizes and drives a turbine to produce electricity. The vapor is then cooled and condensed using cold deep sea water, allowing the cycle to repeat. This method provides a stable and continuous renewable energy source, especially effective in tropical regions. Most common systems for capturing ocean energy. Tidal power system. The tidal power system uses a mechanism similar to hydroelectric power generation based on rising and falling tides. A dam or barrage is constructed across a tidal bay, and gates and turbines are installed along certain points along the dam. As water flows from the high side to the low side of the dam, flowing water causes turbines to spin and produce electricity. Tidal power system generates electricity by harnessing the natural rise and fall of ocean tides. A dam or barrage is built across a tidal bay with gates and turbines installed. During high tide, water builds up on one side of the dam. As water flows through the gates during incoming and outgoing tides, it spins the turbines to produce electricity. This method offers a reliable and predictable source of renewable energy. Wind power. Wind power or wind energy is a form of renewable energy that harnesses the power of the wind to generate electricity. It involves using wind turbines to convert the turning motion of blades pushed by moving air or kinetic energy into electrical energy or electricity. Wind power converts the kinetic energy of the wind into electricity using wind turbines. These turbines have blades that spin when pushed by the wind, turning a shaft connected to a generator. This process transforms mechanical energy into electrical energy, which is then transmitted to the power grid. Wind power is a clean, renewable energy source with minimal environmental impact, suitable for areas with consistent and strong winds. Biomass. Biomass refers to organic material such as plant material and animal waste that can be burned directly as solid fuel or converted into gaseous or liquid biofuels. The use of biomass as a source of energy can be traced back to the era before the Industrial Revolution. Biomass is usually burned directly for heating, cooking, and industrial purposes. It can also be used to drive turbines and produce electricity. Biomass is organic material including both plant material and animal waste, which can be used as a source of energy. It can be used in its solid form as fuel or converted into gaseous or liquid biofuels. The use of biomass for energy dates back to pre-industrial revolution times. Biomass is commonly burned for heating, cooking, and industrial processes. It can also be used to generate electricity by driving turbines, such as those from lumber mills, paper mills, and sugarcane factories. Also, agricultural residues like straw and stalks, which can be converted into ethanol. And in animal waste can be processed to produce energy. And in energy crop plants grown specifically for energy production like sugarcane, corn, sugar beets, grains, and palm. And in energy efficiency, the energy produced from these crops should exceed the energy input required for their growth. Geothermal energy. Geothermal energy is thermal energy extracted from the Earth's crust. It combines energy from the formation of the planet and from radioactive decay. Geothermal energy has been exploited as a source of heat and/or electric power for millennia. Geothermal energy sources is the heat comes from various underground sources including molten rocks. These are extremely hot rocks found deep within the earth. Hot dry rock zones, areas where these molten rocks have come close to the Earth's surface, heating the surrounding rocks. Warm rock reservoir deposits. These are regions with rocks that are warm enough to be useful for heating purposes but not as hot as molten rocks. Geothermal heat systems. These systems use the Earth's heat by piping. A network of pipes and ducts is used to transfer heat from the ground into buildings for heating or to absorb heat from buildings to cool them down. Types of geothermal reservoirs. Underground reservoirs of geothermal energy can contain dry steam, steam without any water droplets, just water vapor. Wet steam, a mixture of water vapor and droplets. Hot water, water that's been heated by the Earth's geothermal heat and is found in rock fractures or porous rocks. And its extraction wells can be drilled to access these reservoirs and extract the steam or hot water, which can then be used for energy production. Geothermal energy is a renewable resource that can provide a consistent and sustainable source of power with minimal environmental impact. It's particularly useful in areas with volcanic activity or hot springs where the geothermal activity is close to the surface and more easily accessible. Renewable energy in the Philippines. The Philippines has various renewable energy resources including solar power, hydropower, wind power, biomass or biofuels, and geothermal power. The use of renewable energy supports the government's goal of attaining sustainable and self-sufficient energy to address environmental concerns. It also promotes economic and local development by generating jobs, reducing pollution, and thereby reducing welfare and health issues. In the Philippines, we've got plenty of clean energy sources like solar power, hydropower, wind power, biomass and biofuels, and geothermal power. The solar power, this comes from the sun, which shines its light and heat onto solar panels. These panels then convert that sunlight into electricity. Next is hydropower. This is all about using the power of water to generate electricity. They do this by building dams or using the natural flow of rivers to turn turbines and then produce electricity. Wind power. Giant windmills that capture the energy of the wind and convert it into electricity. As the wind blows, it turns the blade of the turbine, which then spin a generator to produce electricity. Biomass or biofuels. This involves using organic materials like wood, agricultural residues, or even waste to produce energy. These materials are burned or converted into biofuels like ethanol or biodiesel, which can then be used to generate electricity or power vehicles. Geothermal power. This taps into the heat stored beneath the Earth's surface. We drill wells into hot underground reservoirs or steam or hot water and then use that heat to spin turbines and generate electricity. It's like using the Earth's own warmth to power our homes and businesses. These are all part of our efforts to use energy in a way that doesn't harm the environment. By tapping into these renewable energy resources, we're not only helping the environment but we're also helping our economy and local communities. How? Well, these projects create jobs, which means more people can earn a living, plus they reduce pollution, which leads to fewer health problems and make our neighborhoods cleaner and safer to live in. As you can see in the table, it showcases the potential of various renewable energy sources according to the Department of Energy or DOE. First up, we have geothermal energy. The potential here is massive with over 4,000 megawatts of power. This energy comes from deep within the Earth's crust, where heat from volcanic activity is harnessed to generate electricity. Next is the wind power. The Philippines has a whopping potential of over 76,000 megawatts from wind energy. This is achieved by harnessing the kinetic energy of moving air with wind turbines, which are strategically placed in areas with strong and consistent wind patterns like coastal regions and plains. Moving on to solar power, the potential is measured by the amount of sunlight hitting a square meter each day, which is over 5 kilowatt hours. This energy is captured using solar panels, which convert sunlight directly into electricity through photovoltaic cells. The Philippines, being a tropical country, has abundant sunlight, making solar power a promising renewable energy source. Now let's talk about ocean energy. Here we're looking at the colossal potential of over 170,000 megawatts. This energy is derived from harnessing the power of ocean waves and tides. Devices like wave energy converters and tidal turbines capture the energy from these natural movements, generating electricity in the process. Lastly, we have biomass energy, which has a potential of less than 500 megawatts. Biomass energy is derived from organic materials such as agricultural residues and wood. While it may have a lower potential compared to the other renewable sources, biomass energy still plays a valuable role in diversifying our energy sources and reducing reliance on fossil fuels. So as you can see, the Philippines is blessed with a wide array of renewable energy sources, each with its own unique potential to contribute to a sustainable and greener future. The total installed and dependable capacities of energy sources in the Philippines using pie charts. For the installed capacities, we've got a pie chart that shows us the breakdown of different energy sources contributing to the total. So for the coal, we have 32%, oil-based 19.3%, natural gas 15%, geothermal 10%, hydro 19%, wind 3%, biomass 1%, and solar 0.9%. Now, if we look at the total installed capacity, it's 18,765 megawatts, and if we look at the renewable energy share, it's 34%. This means that 34% of our total installed capacity comes from the renewable sources like geothermal, hydro, wind, biomass, and solar. Moving on to the dependable capacities, we've got another pie chart showing us how different energy sources contribute to the total. Here we have the coal 34%, oil-based 16%, natural gas 17%, geothermal 10%, hydro 19%, wind 2%, biomass 1%, and solar 1%. Now, if we look at the total dependable capacity, it's 16,432 megawatts. And if we look at the renewable energy share, here it's 32%. This means that 32% of our dependable capacity comes from renewable sources. So what do these pie charts tells us? They show us the shift towards the renewable energy in the Philippines over the years, from 27% in 2010 to 34% in 2015 for installed capacity, and from 32% in 2010 to 32% in 2015 for dependable capacity. This indicates a growing reliance on clean and sustainable energy sources like geothermal, hydro, wind, biomass, and solar, which is great news for our environment and our future. Public Act 9513, or also known as the Renewable Energy Act of 2008, passed by the Philippine Congress. This law is all about promoting the use of renewable energy in our country. Now, why is this important? Well, first off, it's about reducing our reliance on fossil fuels like oil and coal. These fuels are not only running out, but they also harm the environment when we use them. So by using more renewable energy sources like solar, wind, and hydropower, we are helping to keep our air cleaner and our planet healthier. That's not all. The law also wants to help our country become more self-reliant when it comes to energy. That means we don't have to depend so much on other countries for our power needs. Plus, by using renewable energy, we're also helping to fight climate change. You see, burning fossil fuels releases greenhouse gases into the atmosphere, which trap heat and warm up the earth. Renewable energy doesn't produce these harmful gases, so it's better for the environment. Now, how does the law encourage people and companies to use more renewable energies? Well, it offers them incentives, both financial and non-financial. That means if you're a person or a business that wants to invest in a renewable energy, the government will give you some benefits to help you out. It's like giving a little push to make the switch to clean energy easier and more attractive. So in a nutshell, Republic Act 9513 is all about promoting clean, renewable energy in the Philippines to protect our environment, boost our economy, and make our country more self-sufficient when it comes to energy. So how can we move towards a more sustainable energy future? First off, we can focus on improving energy efficiency. This means making things like cars, buildings, and appliances use less energy to do the same task. How do we do this? Well, one way is by setting higher standards for fuel efficiency in vehicles. This means cars can go farther on less fuel, which is good for both the environment and our wallets. We can also make buildings more energy efficient by using better insulation and designing them to let in more natural light. When it comes to appliances, we can develop new technologies that use less energy while still getting the job done. Another key to a sustainable energy future is increasing the use of renewable energy sources like solar and wind power. To encourage this shift, governments can offer subsidies and tax credits to individuals and businesses that use renewable energy. On the flip side, they can phase out subsidies and impose taxes on the use of coal and oil, which are less sustainable and more harmful to the environment. But it's not just up to the governments to make a difference. Each of us can play a part too. Simple actions like walking, biking, or taking public transportation instead of driving can reduce our carbon footprint and help protect the planet. We can also make our homes more energy efficient by using passive solar heating and cooling techniques, like opening windows to let in sunlight or using fans to circulate air. And of course, one of the easiest things we can do is to remember to turn off lights, TVs, computers, and other electronics when we're not using them. It may seem small, but every little bit helps when it comes to conserving energy and moving towards a more sustainable future.